And your husband Stanley has an incredible story as well. Could you?
If you mean the war years? Okay, well, he went to, the Hungarians conscripted the Jewish young men into a labor camp, not into a regular army. And the day before they took people away from that part of the world to Germany. He had a large family, and unfortunately none of them survived. He was the only one who survived. He did have a sister and a brother in America from before the war. And so he went to Belgium. He never went back to where he was born. He just had absolutely no interest to go back there. He waited until he was able to come to the United States. His experience in concentration camp, he had escaped from the labor camp was in Budapest, and one day they coerced him, saying that they need people to do some things in Budapest. And in fact, what they did, they put him on trucks and took them to the train and sent them off to Germany. So he wound up in a camp called Buchenwald, and he has a unique story. After work one day, he was going back from the factory where they were working to the camp, and he saw a big pile of religious articles that were being burned. Not only all kinds of articles that were being a bonfire, things that were being burned. And he noticed I'm not sure what it's called in English. I can look it up on the book. The Jewish men pray with two objects. One goes on a little box that goes on the head, and a little box that goes on the left arm, and on a strap. And he found one, and so he looked around, and there was nobody around, so he stuck it in his pocket, and he brought it into his bed, hid it. But then people found out about it, and so you can't pray just with one. But about 2 days later, a gypsy walked in with another one, and he was trying to sell it for food, but nobody was willing to part with food. And so Stanley was anxious to get it because he had one piece. And so he offered him, he had several sweaters on, and he offered him a sweater that his sister had made for him before he left camp. But he gave it up for that religious article. And so when people found out that he had the pair, they used to line up just to say a very simple prayer, not the whole prayer for the morning. And it was dangerous because you just simply didn't do those kinds of things in the camps. But he managed to save them, and he came to the United States with them. But they were in terrible condition, and so he asked our rabbi to see if there is any way to fix them, because he really wanted to use them. And the rabbi took it to a scribe, and the scribe looked at it and he said, if Moses would have worn these were the pair that belonged to him. It was not doable. However, he did make very good use of it, because he first he started in our Hebrew school to tell the children his story. And he didn't make it morbid, he just sort of explained the things that happened to him and how he survived and so on. And somehow the word spread. And so he went to all kinds of schools, religious schools, Catholic schools, Jewish schools, public schools. I mean, one school found out about the other. And so he would go and lecture with these women. Now, a woman who is in charge of finding material for the museum, the Heritage Museum in Manhattan, found out about it and approached my husband to see if he would give them as a donation for the museum. And so when my husband was talking to the girls about it, they really wanted to keep it. But after a long discussion, we came to the conclusion that no matter which of the girls would have it, it would probably be sitting in a drawer. And so it was decided to give it to the museum. Now the museum has it on exhibit, and the story is printed, and also the doge who goes around with people, telling people about the different items, has the story, and she talks about it. And there's a picture of my husband next to that film. So it's in a good place. Yeah. Because there is a story connected with it. So.